End of the pit lane for qualifying 1. Out they go onto the circuit. They will have 10 minutes to get as fast a lap time as humanly possible. There is Mitch Gilbert alongside Akash Gowda, I think that is on the far side, trying to head out onto the circuit. So it's definitely now time for all of the nerves to jingle jangle. As you can see there in the background, Linda watching her partner Mitch Gilbert getting out onto the circuit very shortly indeed. Out onto the track, and you can see just how much rain has come down since the end of free practice. It is very wet indeed out there for qualifying. Could be a very intriguing set of races later in these wet conditions, as the drivers are now trying to find their way through to the hairpin alongside Lumbini Park. Could be a big challenge for all of the competitors out there on the road. They all know just how challenging it's going to be. So we're definitely going to get to see some intriguing challenges. For those of you who are interested in the state of play from free practice, it was the Godspeed Kochi pairing of Nikhil Bora and Alistair Young that were the fastest team with a 1:28.977. Then Shahan Ali Mohsen and Akash Gowda for Speed Demons Delhi second. Oliver Webb and Anshul Gandhi third for the Bangalore Speedsters. Then the second of the Godspeed Kochi cars of Fabien Volvend and Ruhan Alva, I should say, sorry. Then Amir Syed and Sohail Shah for the Goa Aces were fifth. And then we had Akhil Rabindra and Tom Canning, who are sharing the number 9 Hyderabad Blackbirds car in 6th position. Cillian Martin and Mitch Gilbert were together in 7th place in the second Speed Demons Delhi car, as you watch Shahrukh Ali Mohsen getting himself ready to watch his son go out on the circuit. Anindith Reddy is alone in the number 10 Hyderabad Blackbirds car this weekend, or certainly for today, I should say, as rather sadly, Lola Lovinfos has fallen ill. Then we have Kevin Mirokia and Gabriel Yelkova. They were 9th in front of Bianca Bustamante and Rishon Rahiv. And then Parth Gopadi and Nicole Havada. And then we had no running at all in free practice 2 from John Lancaster and Sandeep Kumar. Great to have you with us once again in the Indian Racing League. It is great to be here on the streets of Hyderabad, which I have to say are considerably wetter than they were yesterday. A very different challenge indeed from 24 hours ago for our competitors. I'm Jake Sanson, beside me is Sumit Arora. This is not what the drivers were hoping for come qualifying.
They certainly weren't, Jake, but absolutely everyone is relishing the challenge, because when do you ever get to race on a street circuit? A. When do you ever get to race on a wet street circuit? B. That's the most important part for all of them. And yes, the conditions are tricky. Yes, the cars will be very, very twitchy, and when they go out there and put their foot on the accelerator, things are going to get very dicey. But the important part is, can you nail that one lap with all the courage in the world? Because let's say if you're car number 3 right now, let's say if that's Bianca Bustamante most likely, imagine if you're her, stuck in the spray of another car. You can barely see anything. You can barely even see the marshal post waving the flags. So it's going to be that tricky. How do you brake? Where do you brake? When do you know where to go ahead and what not to do? So this, Jake, is going to be a big, big learning lesson for so many of those young drivers. But I suppose this is where courage and experience really counts off, because they've only got 1 lap. No 5 laps, no 3 laps, nothing. Nail the car, and this is it. Bang on. If this goes ahead well, bingo, you're on pole. But if it doesn't, oh wow.
Well, I think there's actually a slight change to the regulations for qualifying for this weekend. Don't quote me on this, but I think they decided that for the 10 minutes, drivers could lap as many times as they wanted in order to increase their knowledge of the circuit. So don't quote me on that. And I think that was adjusted ahead of qualifying today. As Bianca Bustamante sweeps around the outside of Akhil Rabindra down to the hairpin. A much tougher challenge in the wet here compared to yesterday. They didn't have a lot of running in the dry yesterday either. So this is a big, big challenge for everybody. Ruhan Alva has set the pace though, 1:29.942, just 0.05 of a second quicker than Nikhil Bora. Now, are we going to see them? Yes, look, that's the proof, because they've completed 1 flying lap, but they are going to continue on. So that regulation has been adhered to. The drivers can do as much running as they like over the course of time qualifying.
And the interesting part for them right now is that they've got such little running in this particular weather. They had 1 practice session each for each driver, and they got some running in. But since then, the rain has been pouring a little bit more, and it's got even wetter. So I wonder what the conditions are like for the drivers. They're literally learning it every single corner as they go ahead. And I suppose, Jake, this is where all the experienced heads should ideally come up and deliver. But what we're getting to see is quite the opposite. We're getting to see youngsters like Rohan Alva and Nikhil Bora for the Godspeed Kochi team, so far at least, top the timings.
Big problems down at Chennai Turbo Riders. You can see that for yourself, as they've got mechanical problems and haven't got their car out onto the circuit just yet. And that could be a big problem for the pairing of Sandeep Kumar and John Lancaster, who celebrated his birthday yesterday on the rooftop hotel with cakes and muffins. But he's definitely not feeling in the festive mood at the moment, because obviously he's not out on the circuit when he should be. There is the number 9 going through, that's Akhil Rabindra. He's not quite got up to speed as yet. There is John Lancaster. They're finally putting him in the car, so there's a hope that he's actually going to be able to get out there and put some laps in. And they're racing against time because they've only got 4 minutes to get him on track and get him to start a flying lap. So big problems then at the number 6 car, as everybody else is just getting up to speed. And that's a spin up from one of the Hyderabad Blackbirds.
Even bigger problems for them because they're facing the wrong way round. So what's happened to the home heroes? Which car is that? Unfortunately, we can't quite tell right now, but this should give us a better idea, Jake. Oops.
Oh, it's Reddy. I think it's Reddy that's gone around there.
It would be Anindit because the colour of the helmet absolutely matches it, yeah?
I think that's Anindit Reddy who's gone around. That's very unfortunate. He's the sole driver in the number 10 car. I don't think that was Akhil Rabindra. It might have been, though, because they have similar helmets, Reddy and Rabindra, so we'll have to double check. But hopefully there's enough water on the circuit that he can just get on the power, spin-turn the car around and face the right way again. But John Lancaster and the Chennai Turbo Riders frantically trying to get their car on the circuit as Parth Gobadi gets out of the way and allows Mitch Gilbert to go through. There is Sharu Mohsin watching his son out on the circuit, Shahan Ali Mohsin, the 18-year-old, who is currently 4th position in time qualifying. And there's Tom Canning on the left of your picture, trying to get himself ready to go. All smiles at Godspeed Kochi, though. Joe Zotta is having a wonderful day, 1st and 2nd so far.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and there's every reason to celebrate it for him right now. But things could change. This could be topsy-turvy, because so far this weekend we've seen that number 11 Speed Demons Delhi car look a bit interesting. More importantly, that number 4 Bangalore Speedsters cars that looked even better, because throughout the season they've been filled with bad luck, but yesterday, Jake, they topped a free practice session. That, however, was in the dry. In the wet, can they maintain it? Can they finally get back on their lucky line? And we are, speaking of lines, we're getting to see something of sorts.
Well, Shahan Ali Mohsin has now crept up into 3rd position behind Alva and Bora. Gandhi is in 4th position in the number 4 Bangalore Speedsters car. Then Kevin Muraka, a lot of experience in the wet. That's helping him to get up to P5. And then it is Mitchell Gilbert, who has crept up into P6 for the Speed Demons Delhi. It's a terrible day at the office so far for Hyderabad Blackbirds. 7th place for Anindit Reddy, the sole driver in that car now because Lola Lovinfoss is unwell. And then 8th position for MS Syed. Bianca Bustamante currently 9th. Akhil Rabindra, who was a winner this year, has unfortunately dropped all the way to 10th and does not look like going any faster at the moment. Parth Gobadi is 11th place for the Chennai Turbo Riders. John Lancaster still needs to get out onto the circuit to start his qualifying lap, and I'm not sure he's going to be able to.
And imagine being the teammates of all the drivers who are not qualifying. I mean, think of it. If you're Sohail Shah, you've got Amir Syed qualifying right now. Okay, you trust your co-driver because you know their abilities and you know the reason why they got to a platform like this one. But still, things are out of your control and you've got to race that car in the sprint race that's going to come up in the position that a teammate qualifies in. So that feeling of helplessness, I wonder what it feels like. Being chastised of sorts.
Well, I can tell you that Lancaster has now got out onto the circuit and he has set a lap, and it is a 1:39.2, so that is currently down at the back of the field. The Chennai Turbo Riders just do not seem to have any pace whatsoever in the wet conditions, so it looks very tough for them to repeat their podium success of last week in Chennai. But certainly for Bora and Alba and the 2 Godspeed Kochi cars, this couldn't be better. No wonder Joe Zotta is grinning from ear to ear down in pit road, because this is exactly what they wanted to start the weekend. And with their chief rivals 6th and 10th, they could score a massive amount of points to catch up to the Hyderabad Blackbirds on their own turf.
And let's not forget, Jake, today is the last round of the championship. Oh, but before we go to that discussion, that's the number 3 Bangalore Speedsters. That's Bianca Bustamante in a little bit of trouble.
Yeah, she had some problems in practice and now she's overshot there. I think that's on the approach to Giant Wheel. So she's had a problem there on the circuit. Oliver Webb and Rishon Rajiv having to watch from the sidelines there. They're getting ready for their own qualifying session next, of course. But the checkered flag is out. And Shahan Ali Mohsin can only do 4th fastest. Speaking as Delhi crew, it's a good effort, but he can't quite go faster than a 1:28.288, especially now that Anshul Gandhi has been able to pip him to 3rd position. But Nikhil Bora has just set the pace on a 1:26.9. So the second of the Godspeed Kochi cars that leads the battle for the championship in chase of Akhil Rabindra and Tom Canning now, of course, for Hyderabad Blackbirds. The number 9 car still leads the championship, but Nikhil Bora, who is chasing it, has now gone fastest, a 1:26.902. And that's great news for Alistair Young, because it means for his race, he'll be starting pole.
It's been amazing, that pairing. Nikhil has been setting the car in pole position, and Alistair has been converting it to get so many wins. Fantastic job right there by young Nikhil. He's not even 18, folks, and he's out there in such tricky conditions, driving that car to perfection. And his teammate Rohan Alva is also one of the very best youngsters in Indian racing, but Nikhil has been 8/10 faster. That is a lap that's properly dialed in. And for Godspeed Kochi, it is Godspeed 1 and 2. What I'm really appreciating, though, Jake, is Anshul Gandhi. Throughout the season, always been surrounded by bad luck. The one time the car works, P3. That's more like it.
Yeah, that shows Anshul Gandhi's pure pace. So it's great to see him actually maximise his potential. 3rd position for the Bangalore Speedsters. And look at Nikhil Bora. He's absolutely... Oh! He took his hand off the wheel to celebrate, and he spins on the way into the pits. Well, that is what you don't do. Nikhil Bora, celebrating the pole position, took his hand off the wheel to punch the air, and all of a sudden spins. No contact with anything. Look. He's just got too much wheel spin, too much throttle. He pirouettes the car around. He is so lucky that he didn't spear into the wall.
Totally planned. This was planned, Jake. Yeah, it was totally planned. He
just wanted to give us a show.
That's one for the highlight reel. But no, on an honest note, could have been so much worse. The walls are always so close by. But hey, I think Nikhil will love doing something like that. Maybe it's an experience that never ever take your hands off the wheel because the conditions are so tricky. But what a drive, huh?
Well, Alistair Young is going to be looking at him when he comes in going, you plank. What on earth did you do that for? He's so lucky that he didn't hit anything. Yeah, I need a recovery. I've gone pole position, but I got a little bit too eager on the coming in lap. But the thing is, they know how big a deal this is. With Akhil Rabindra only going 8th quickest and them getting pole position, Nikhil has now put Alistair into pole. If he can do the same thing for Nikhil, then they're going to be in pole position for both of their sprints. And look at Rohan Alva. The team are absolutely ecstatic with him, 2nd position. So that's a 1-2, and that puts Fabienne Volvend on the front row of the grid for her race as well.
And you know what? This means that we get to see Fabienne Volvend versus Oliver James Webb for 2nd and 3rd, with, of course, Alistair Young in pole position. That's a battle I honestly would have never imagined in my wildest dreams, but I'm so up for it.
Yeah, it's great to see. We're going to run through them all. Nikhil Bora and Rohan Alva, 1st and 2nd place for Godspeed Kochi in qualifying 1. Then Anshul Gandhi, 3rd place for the Bangalore Speedsters. Shahan Ali Mohsin, 4th place, 18-year-old for Speaking as Delhi. Then in 5th place it is Kevin Miroka for the Goa Aces. Ended ready in the Hyderabad Blackbirds car, the sole driver in that car, so you won't see it out again in Q2, I'm afraid. Mitchell Gilbert, 7th place in the 2nd Speed Demons Delhi car. Look at that. Alistair Young's quite handy with a pit board nowadays. P1 and 2. And then in 8th position behind Mitchell Gilbert is Akhil Rabindra. Bianca Bustamante in 9th place. 10th for Amir Saeed. 11th for Parth Gopadi. And sadly, with only 2 laps behind the wheel, John Lancaster could only set a 1:39.227. That means that Sandeep Kumar is going to start his race from the back row of the grid alongside teammate Nicole Havada. But what about these two? It's a brilliant run for Rohan Alva. Nikhil Bora has finally made it back. Oops. That was a bit of a silly one on the end there.
I'm surprised nobody's saying him anything. I think that works if you've taken pole position. All your sins are completely wiped off if you do that. But now this next qualifying session will be interesting to watch, because at last year we're getting to see someone like Oliver James Webb in the car. Now, this chap has been a part of the league since day one, but he's barely ever got a couple of laps of running consistently. I think this is when we get to see the best of him, because in yesterday's practice session, he was out of the waters. I mean, he completely blew everyone away. Now, I want to see what happens because he's one of the very few drivers who's actually raced here at a street circuit. Just how much does that experience account for? That is going to come up in qualifying too, and that comes up right about now, doesn't it, Jake?
That's a great teammate decision there. Anshul Gandhi's gone over to console Bianca Bustamante, having had her spin in qualifying. She still went P9, but it's not where she wanted to be. And there's Nicole Havada, the Canadian, the youngest driver in the field, 16 years of age. And she'll start her sprint race from 11th on the grid, but she's hoping to do a much stronger job in Q2 than her teammate Parth Gobadi has been able to manage. But the Chennai Turbo riders, they're really struggling. They never been trouble for those cars. They were on the podium last week in Chennai, and now they are absolutely down the order. 11 seconds and 12 seconds off the pace. This is a shocking turn of fortunes for them.
Come with the drivers, but let's actually find out what really is the case. But soon, folks, we'll be back with qualifying 2. Be right here after a short break. A short break of 10 seconds, that is, because we're back again for qualifying 2, ladies and gentlemen. The circuit will open up in a couple of seconds' time. And you're right, Jake, with the Chennai Turbo riders, I've been very curious because when you look at their driver lineup, that is a great driver lineup. John Lancaster's won so much abroad. We're seeing one of the younger talents in Nicole Havada, Parth Ghorpade, one of the most experienced Indian racers, and Sandeep Kumar, a local domestic legend of sorts. But it's just not working. I don't know what it is because they can't be that far off on talent, right?
They've definitely had some kind of mechanical issues to take into qualifying, which isn't helping at all. Akash Gowda trying to get his reference points from Shahan Ali Mohsin. Two very different talents, these two. Akash Gowda and Shahan Ali Mohsin. Shahan is always very pensive, always very calm and cool and collected. You never really know what he's thinking at any one time. Akash, well, he's a little bit of a wild wind, isn't he? He's a little bit of he's a bit of a playful man. And what I liked about him is, I sat and spoke with him on Friday night. You're going to have to be quite careful around this circuit. I said, he said, no, I'm just going to send it everywhere. I said, really? He said, yeah, I'm a racing driver, you send it everywhere you go. Very different style of driving, those two, and very different characters to come around the circuit as well. There are the two Brits, John Lancaster on the right and Ollie Webb on the left. Two great talents who have basically been around the block in all forms of motorsport, at the sharp end in most cases, and great to see them here in the Indian Racing League. Ollie Webb about to go out, and John Lancaster having only just made it out. Here is the provisional results from qualifying then. It's a 1-2 for the Godspeed Kochis of Nikhil Bora and Ruan Alva. Bangalore Speedsters third for Anshul Gandhi. The Speed Demons Delhi fourth for Shahan Ali Mohsin. Then the Goa Aces and the Blackbirds Hyderabad team for Kevin Murokka and Anindith Reddy. Speed Demons Delhi in seventh again for Mitch Gilbert. Akhil Rabindra in eighth for the Blackbirds from Hyderabad. Bianca Bustamante for the Bangalore Speedsters. Amir Syed in the second of the Goa Aces cars, and then the Chennai Turbo riders filling up the back of Parth Gobadi and John Lancaster. But look at the difference in lap time. It's all gone wrong for the guys and girls in yellow and blue.
And I wonder what's going to happen eventually in qualifying too, because we're going to see the other two drivers go out there and give a shot. It's interesting, right? So the drivers who qualified in qualifying 1 set the grid for these drivers in the car right now, and then they do the opposite. So the drivers you're going to see right now will be setting the grid for the drivers who did the previous qualifying session. It's like a team game essentially. Everyone's accountable for their partner's results as well. So it's never just one driver's performance or one driver's work that defines your points table. It's always a group game, and that's what the IRL is all about. But now I'm curious to see what do the other set of drivers do, because there are so many lineups, Jake, that are super balanced, but there are others that can be a little bit more topsy-turvy. I think this is going to reveal more of it, because at a street circuit, you get to see the difference between a good driver and a great driver. They're all great drivers over here, but can we see some of the youngsters go to that other level, reach that very top, and extract their peak performance? Luckily for them, it seems like it's raining a little bit less, and it's somewhat a dry line emerging. So that should help out the other set of drivers, but still, the challenge remains, doesn't it?
It certainly does. It's going to be a very different state of affairs now in this second session. You've got to remember that while they have changed the regulations so the drivers can set as many laps as they can fit in to qualifying, rather than just having a one-shot showdown lap, which I think is actually a lot better. It's given us a really interesting grid for the first sprint race later. Now, there's a lot of pressure on these two, isn't there? Alistair Young and Fabian Nolvend to repeat the feats of their teammates. They now know they're going to be starting their race from the front row of the grid. But now, it's going to be a very different situation as the main pressure is going to be on them. Now, we've obviously got the YouTube feed going. Thanks very much indeed for all of you for throwing your comments our way. We'll try and get through as many of them as we possibly can. Hadikesh on YouTube has asked, can you say what are the qualifying races? Well, these are the two qualifying sessions, and in Q1, the drivers that are out on track are qualifying for their compatriots, their second driver in the car. And then in this session, Q2, they are also doing the same thing. They are then qualifying for their teammates. Then we will have two sprint races. They've been reduced in length to 15 minutes plus the additional lap. And then the feature race, which will have a mandatory driver change in the middle. That will be 35 minutes plus the additional lap. The pit window opening on the 12th minute and closing again on the 22nd minute. So that's how the format works in the Indian Racing League. And with 3 races to go in the championship, Sunil, it's hard to know who's going to get the job done. All Hyderabad Blackbirds need to do is score a reasonable amount of points to fend off from Godspeed Kochi. But they look unstoppable so far in the number 2 crew.
Well, they're so confident about it. It's eventually going to be a big fight, right? They're all young drivers and they've got their front wings signed because they're so confident this is going to be a championship-winning car. And that's very, very interesting. That's the level of confidence that you can't expect from youngsters, but I think it is going to go in their way, Jake, because the Blackbirds Hyderabad crew, what made them super strong was the likes of Neil Jani and, of course, Doro Lavenfos, 2 of their major pillars in their 4-driver lineup. And unfortunately, both of them are not going to be there today, Jake. That is a bit of a challenge.
Yeah, it really is. Hello to everybody who's watching around the circuit. Myself, Jake Sanson, and my colleague Sumit Arora. And we are here in the commentary position, just overlooking the cinema chicane on the far side of the course. It's been a fabulous weekend so far here on the streets of Hyderabad. We hope you've been enjoying it so far. The first ever street race weekend in India. And what a fabulous opportunity it is to see what these cars can do out on the circuit. And, of course, a nice sneak preview to what happens 2 months from now when the FIA Formula E Championship comes here. And that will also involve the Hyderabad EV Motor Week on the second weekend of February. That's going to be a really interesting event. But here for the Indian Racing League, Samil, we're still really going to be keeping our eyes peeled as to how many points Godspeed Kochi can actually gain on the Hyderabad Blackbirds.
And that's going to be quite the upset, right? For the home weekend for the Blackbirds Hyderabad, you would want them to seal the championship in front of their home fans, in front of their home heroes. That would be amazing, right? Just the perfect ending, but it's not turning out to be that way. As we can see on the track right now, it's slightly wet, so the conditions are tricky. And the drivers, well, they're adapting with it quite well. But I wonder what they do right now. Akhil Ravindra in this car, he just has to get the car home with decent enough points, and the championship could be his. But Godspeed Kochi are really breathing down on their neck, aren't they?
Well, the challenge is on the man who has been drafted in to the number 9 car. And that is Tom Canning, who has joined forces with Akhil Rabindra once again. The 2 of them teammates when they race in sports cars in the UK. And when Neil Jani had to disappear after his performance last week to return to his testing programme for his 2023 racing commitments, they drafted in Tom Canning to come in and replace. For those who are watching back home in the UK, I do have to say there is one man who I would have liked to have seen here, but unfortunately is not quite ready to get behind the wheel of the Indian Racing League. And I know that Jos Otter wanted him to get behind the wheel, and that is the young British driver Scott Huntley. He wanted him behind the wheel. He's very, very close to Freddie Hunt, who's been doing a lot of coaching work with him. And Scott Huntley, who's had a prolific British karting career over the last 2 or 3 years, but unfortunately he's not quite old enough yet to get behind the wheel of these Indian Racing League cars. So Scott, if you're watching, keep working, keep pushing hard, and we'll see you on the IRL grid in 2023.
Hopefully, yeah. And we've got another such driver like that. We've got Akshay Bora, who's the younger brother of Nikhil Bora, who's only 15. He's actually colloquially known as the team principal of the Godspeed Kochi team, who's also now going to race in one of the F4 championships in Europe next year. So keep an eye out on younger drivers like that who aren't quite in the league yet, but could also be there. But there's also one comment that's come on YouTube, and keep on throwing to us, folks. We'd love to answer them. There's one from Rohit Kumar. Rain and a new road. Perfect greasy condition for crashes. Unfortunately, we have seen a couple, Jake. We have seen a couple of drivers being caught out by these conditions, and they've had a tough time adapting to the braking markers and also the throttle, because when it's wet, you don't have enough grip, so the car can spin around here and there. And that has happened, by the way. But I suppose as the drivers get more laps, their experience will come in. They will get to know more about the track, and fingers crossed, we get to see less of them. Because, sure, crashes after the drama, But we don't want to see that, right? We want to see the championship decided fairly and evenly, and I hope that's what we get today.
Well, what's really significant about that, actually, is that, yes, they have very difficult conditions to run with, and they're desperately trying to get themselves up to speed. But it's that lack of knowledge for everybody that makes it so even. They're all in the same boat. Unfortunately, one driver we picked up on earlier is not going to be racing for the rest of today, and that sadly is the French driver from Rouen, the 17-year-old Lola Lovinfoss, who sadly has come down with a minor illness. So hopefully she's going to recover quickly in the hotel, and if she's watching, then we wish you all the best, Lola. Hopefully you'll get well soon. What I would have loved to have seen, actually, in that circumstance, we know that we have the F4 driver, Mira Erda. She is in the pit lane at the moment, hanging out with Godspeed Kochi. If only she had had her race suit and equipment here, if only she had the right license, she could have jumped into that car and been the only Indian female out in the Indian Racing League. Hopefully she'll get everything ready together for next year.
We've been asking Mira for that. I mean, we've been asking her to get her suit ready, borrow someone's helmet, do something, because if the time arrives and if they do need a driver in their Blackbirds Hyderabad team, she would be perfect for that role. But no, she's there for something else, and hopefully that goes out extremely well as well. But let's wait and see. I wonder how they plan things out. Do they just race with one driver? It's going to be interesting, because then that just leaves Anindit ready for the feature race, which means he'll have to stop, do 3 minutes ideally, and then go back out himself. And think of it. We'll see what happens with that. It's very interesting. We'll give you more updates when we can. But I want to answer a question from Harikesh that's come out on YouTube. How is the champion decided by the points table? That is correct, isn't it, Jake? Because 50 points if you win the feature, 25 if you win one of the sprint races, and that's how we accumulate things here in the IRL.
And we also have points for pole position as well, don't forget. That's correct, that's quite an important one. Nikhil Bora has already scored the point for pole position, so that's got them. They also have a point for fastest lap, so that's quite an important one. And those 1 or 2 points, the way things are currently going, I mean, that could be the key factor. If they manage to score a vast quantity of points in the number 2 car and the number 9 car struggles to, then all of a sudden that huge points deficit is suddenly going to turn around on its head. This is not over by any means, and it looks to me as though the Godspeed Kochi team not only have designs on the victory, they are absolutely determined to make it happen.
And they're a young crew. They're just focused on one thing and one thing only, which is not normally what you expect of youngsters, right? You tend to see them and be like, oh, yeah, they would be distracted. But no, not these guys. Alistair and Nikhil have been hyper-focused on the job at hand. They have just dialed it down from the first weekend that they've been together. And what are the odds, Jake? They used to kart together as kids. I think around 7 odd years later, there they are sharing the same car, completely randomly, because this wasn't planned. Alistair came in as a replacement, and straight away, as soon as they've been together, they've just been a winning combination, winning races, getting pole positions in qualifying, and being the best singers in the entire RL.
And they're one of the youngest crews in terms of average age out there. The average age of these two is 18, so they have a fantastic amount of talent behind them. There is Fabienne Volvend waiting at the end of the pit lane, hoping to repeat her teammate Ruhan Alva's performance. And of course, she is a champion in the Ferrari Challenge World Finals in the Trofeo Pirelli category. There is Gabriela Yelkova, the Czech driver, 27 years of age, races for Drago Racing in the GT4 European and ADAC Championships. And there is Bianca Bustamante chatting away there with Oliver Webb and Rishon Rajiv. Interestingly, neither of those two drivers appear to be making a massive move to be trying to get themselves into the cars. Celia Martin is only just getting into the car. So it seems to me as though the Godspeed Kochi drivers went out to the end of the pit lane hoping the session would start, and they've been caught out because they're at the end of the pit lane waiting and they haven't been signalled out there. There they are. So Alistair Young and Fabienne Volvend hoping to get out onto the circuit before anybody else. And well, I hope we're going to start on time here at 11 o'clock, because that is currently the plan. And there's I don't think there's any debris to clear off the circuit. But certainly there is Sandeep Kumar getting himself ready. So I think they're just waiting for the track to be fully clear before they head out on the circuit. There is Celia Martin, Nürburgring 24 hours class winner. She lives 5 minutes away from the Nordschleife. I genuinely can't think of any race circuit to be in stone's throw away from where you live. She's an absolute stalwart. She's run as high as 4th position in one of her races this year before the battery died. So she has the chance here at Hyderabad to change things. There is Nicole Haberda, the Canadian, 16 years of age, double winner in American F3 at Buttonwillow in California just before she flew to India. So she has an amazing amount of talent behind her, and she, like so many of the young ladies here in the Indian Racing League, are really hoping that they get to take part in the all-new F1 Academy that has just been announced for lady drivers in F4 to work their way up the ladder. Alistair Young, eyes focused on the task. He is Mr. Party Animal of the Indian Racing League, but once he gets behind the wheel, he is a very different person altogether. It'll be an absolutely fantastic situation. So Nicole, have it up. Just gearing up, ready to send the Chennai Turbo Riders number 5 car out onto the circuit. This has been a big challenge for the drivers that are used to F4 cars. Slightly heavier than an F4 car, but the fact that it's a Aprilia Superbike engine means there's so much power to the rear wheels so quickly, and that's something that they won't be used to.
It's incredible. 221 bhp is the official figure that they're using. And that for a bike engine is fantastic. And you've got to be here. You've got to be here at the Hyderabad Street Circuit. If you are in the city, make your way in. Because sure, it may sound good on the stream, but when you're here in person, you just can't help but feel goosebumps. Because that sort of an engine really gets you all the way going. So it's incredible what this engine delivers. And the best part is the car is so light that the power to weight ratio of this car is also pretty incredible. So when you've got a lot of power, obviously you've got lots of responsibility, and that's the thing that these young drivers will have to comprehend, because these cars are so light, they've got so much power. The track is definitely not helping in terms of grip as well, because it's super wet. So again, it's tricky conditions, and only the best of the best can succeed right here, which is what makes all the youngsters' laps even more interesting, because generally, Jake, they've barely ever done any wet running at all.
There you go, folks. You know how good a commentator Sumail Arora is. He crowbarred a quote from Spider-Man into the commentary. Nicely done. With great power, indeed, does come great responsibility. Nice one. John Lancaster chatting away with teammate Parth Gobadi. And there is Celia Martin, ready to go in Speed Demons Delhi, number 12. John Lancaster had his birthday yesterday. A rather unfortunate end to his birthday, of course, because he stayed up to watch England play against France in the World Cup. And unfortunately, he ended up disappointed. I hope I haven't spoiled it for anybody who was hoping to watch it yesterday, but as we're only interested in the sport that goes vroom vroom, we'll focus on that. But yes, John Lancaster turned 34 yesterday. Still plenty of great ability behind him. He's been racing in the British GT Cup of late, but he won the European Le Mans Series Championship in 2015. This man, Ollie Webb, won it the year before, 2014. So these are two British drivers who've come to India and very much been slotted into the mentor roles at both the Chennai Turbo Riders and the Bangalore Speedsters.
I need to tell you one thing about Oliver Webb, folks, because Oliver Webb now lives in the UAE, so he's not typically like proper British in terms of residence, but you can't take them out of the UK, right? Because once we had the Chennai race last time out on a Saturday, he unfortunately couldn't quite drive, so for the podium ceremony, he got himself a cup of tea and a saucer. So he's drinking tea next to the podium. That is amazing. And this is the same driver who's driven all the most exciting cars in the world. The BSE Mono Super Light, the 1974 Hesketh of James Hunt. He's driven LMP1 for Bike College Racing at the 24 Hours in Le Mans, the pinnacle of endurance racing. And there he is, sipping tea after the race. Love him. Yeah, he's a fabulous character, and it's great to see so many of these amazing superstars putting on an excellent show. There is Fabienne Volvend, the 25-year-old from Liechtenstein, and she has done an incredible job to put her way into this grid, racing in the W Series last year, but has been a champion in the Trofeo Pirelli of the Ferrari Challenge in the World Finals in years gone by, and she has an incredible amount of talent. Came up through the world of karting ranks in Europe and has continued to steady her progress through the way of things. It's quite funny, a lot of the young teenage female racers that are here have kind of gone under the wing of Volvend, but she has a lot of experience, she has a lot of ability, and she's been a very decent guide for these young teens to learn from. And very interestingly, Jake, Fabienne Volvend is one of the very few gentlewoman drivers of sorts. She used to work in the banking industry before she properly got into racing. Of course, she's been karting since she was 10. Pit lane's open, by the way, so qualifying will be beginning right now. But a word on Fabienne. She used to work in the banking industry. The W Series came along. She got a proper chance to go to racing, and she's like, okay, I'm done with the banking. I'll go drive race cars properly. And she's excelling. There she is right now in that #1 Godspeed Kochi machine behind Alistair Young in that Malaysian helmet. So, are they going to do some teamwork? Let's wait and watch. She's not the only one to have an interesting side job
along with racing. Celia Martin didn't even come through the karting route. She was actually a qualified solicitor, a qualified lawyer before she came into racing. Decided that she'd had enough of it and has continued funding her racing with various outlets. She is the Jaguar Land Rover factory driver, has raced in the Jaguar I-Pace Trophy in various locations, and now she is here racing in the Indian Racing League and looking fairly comfortable when the car is working. Unfortunately, the car doesn't always work in her favour, so hopefully we'll get to see it do a fair job. So for those who are watching along on the YouTube stream for the Indian Racing League, do please continue to share your comments and questions for us. It'll be great to see how everybody is continuing on. Rakesh has pointed out that Neil Jani is not racing this weekend. You're absolutely right, he's not. He has gone back to his testing program in World Sports Cars. So this weekend, Akhil Rabindra's teammate in British sports car racing, Tom Canning, has been drafted in. Very talented 20-year-old racer based down in Somerset in the United Kingdom, and is good mates with the Thatcher's cider family. So he definitely knows his onions. And Tom Canning definitely getting up to speed in this car quickly. He's had no choice, as Alistair Young and Fabian Volvend look to put their teammates Nikhil Bora and Ruan Alva on the front row of the grid as well. Alistair Young in full push mode. It's going to be fascinating to see how it goes. Now you can see there that in 12th position is Lola Lovinfoss. She will not come out onto the circuit. I should point out for those who are waiting to see her, very sadly, Lola Lovinfoss has fallen ill this morning after struggling yesterday with a fever. So hopefully she is going to be back in action again next time around. So it's going to be an interesting day without her, unfortunately. But if Lola is tuned in, if she is watching, then all the best, Lola, and we hope that you get better soon.
Yeah, it's such a shame, right? Unfortunately, she got ill, and she would have loved to drive at the circuit because all the drivers have had so much positives to say about it. It's in the middle of the city, A, so getting here is pretty easy. But B, the track is flowing. It's not like other conventional street circuits where you're like, oh, hairpin, left turn, hairpin, 90-degree right turn. No, this is a well-designed circuit, and you've got to give credit to the folks at Driven International who made a flowing layout in the middle of the city. And in terms of logistics, it seems almost impossible to get good enough roads for that. But we've got the perfect location next to the Hussain Sagar Lake, and then more. And wow, Alistair Young is sliding. Ha! That was fantastic. The 19-year-old is just dancing about in the rain, and this is what we love to see. And that's not what we love to see. That's one of the Go Aces car on the wall.
Well, that's not gone well at all. Now, who is it? Is that Sohail Shah? Yeah, I think it is. And he's just done what we saw a couple of drivers doing yesterday. He's just got a little bit early on the throttle there at the hairpin opposite Lumbini Park. Well done to Akash Gowda for getting out of the way in time. So that could have been rather messy, but it isn't quite as messy as it could have been. Akash Gowda still motoring around the course. Hopefully, Sohail Shah will keep going. And I think he has, otherwise we would have been under red flags by now. So there is Akash Gowda getting himself up to pace and doing a fair job. But yeah, I just wanted to come back on your last comment, Samil, about Driven International. They really have been phenomenal in coming up with a circuit that isn't just in the heart of the city, but is also very well flowing and has that really exciting air of wheel to wheel. It's definitely got massive potential, this place, and obviously I can tell from experience and knowing the man personally, what Ben Wilshire doesn't know about circuit design isn't worth knowing. The man genuinely knows how to build a race circuit, having been a racer himself back in the day. So he definitely has the flavour and thirst for a great racetrack, and he's quickly catching up to Herman Tilke as a man who can put together a great venue for racing. And I have to say, Hyderabad really has embraced racing on its streets very well indeed. We've had so many great warm welcomes from the residents of Hyderabad, the volunteers, and there are thousands of volunteers around the circuit, marshals, sweepers, vendors, everybody who has been helping out behind the scenes. They've done an amazing job so far. Now, let's get back to the action. Fabian Volvend is currently fastest on a 1:26.9 in front of Alistair Young at the halfway point. Akash Gowda in front of Gabriele Gilkova, Thomas Canning, Celia Martin and Nicole Havada. At the moment, still more drivers to set lap time pace. And Akash Gowda, look at how aggressive he's being as he goes past the Hussain Sagar Lake and down the straight. He's gesturing as he comes through. Now, what's that about?
There's nobody nearby. Maybe he's just waving to the fans. Smile and wave, boys. Smile and wave. That's a Madagascar quote for you. No, but I want to wait and see what Akash does. Because remember, in similar wet conditions back in Chennai, Akash Gowda took pole position for the Speed Demons Delhi. Now, indeed, a couple of the other drivers took their qualifying laps in even wetter conditions, so the timing was perfect. But can he double down on it? Can he become the certified wet weather legend of the hour? Let's wait and see. Again, a lot of time left in qualifying, around 4.5 minutes, so there's still time to do that. But right now, Fabian Wolven showing an experience.
You just saw Mira Erda on the left of your screen there as Kevin Morocca and MS Saeed watch on in the Goa Aces garage. And there is Alistair Young trying to work his way forward. As they come down the main straight, is Alistair Young about to go provisional pole position in Q2. It looks like a much stronger lap than he did last time around, where he had to back off the throttle. It looks like he's just done a 1:32.5, so he's still struggling to find a little bit more pace in the car. It's very difficult to get this car stopped into the Lumbini hairpin. But Alistair Young in there behind Fabian Wolven at the moment.
If you're struggling to just P2, sure, great struggle, good job. Because right now, even though Alistair is just testing the limits of the car, he's still got a lap time decent enough to be in P2, but this could change. In fact, this will change. Both the Bangalore Speedsters drivers, Rishon Rajiv, who's been, I think, one of the standout Indian talents of this tournament so far, is yet to put a lap. Oliver James Webb, British racing legend, he's done so much, is yet to put in a lap. We are yet to see Sohail Shah properly go out and put a lap. So, a lot could change. Gabriela Yilkova, there she is announcing herself.
Second position for Gabriela Yilkova. Great work for the Goa Races racer from the Czech Republic. There she is. She has just gone second quickest. How about this, guys? We've got two ladies at the top spot. We have yet to have a lady grab a pole position in qualifying, and we could have a female 1-2 here. Gabriela Yilkova using her GT experience to good measure as she goes past the matcha tree. But this is absolutely fantastic for Gabriela Yilkova and the Goa Aces. Second at the moment.
Amazing. Throughout the season so far, Gabriela, unfortunately, has been...
And Celia Martin has just gone fourth. The ladies
amazing.
are absolutely rapid round here.
So, 3 ladies in the top 4. That's more like it. That is more like it. That's what the Indian Racing League is all about. Everyone over here is at the very top. But to see this happen in what traditionally has been a man's world, I love to see it. The times are changing. And Alistair Young has gone out there.
There we go.
Alistair Young has got a lap time that's barely 200ths of a second faster than his teammate. The margins, Jake, the margins.
Well, this is what Alistair Young wanted. He wanted to go top spot. Fabian Wolven looking second at the moment. Now, what's Gabriela Yilkova doing? She's done a 1:28.0, so she's bettered her best. But it's not quite good enough to move at a second position. Alistair Young wiping the smile from teammate Fabian Wolven's face. But Wolven still doing a fantastic job. Yilkova in third. Martin has now slipped down to sixth position as Tom Canning rejuvenates the Hyderabad Blackbirds' fortunes in his first day in a qualifying session in the Indian Racing League. And he's gone fifth. Well done, Tom Canning.
What an arrival. What an arrival from Thomas Canning right here. Already, he's barely got, I think, around 8, 9, 10 odd laps under the belt, and to go out there and put that belter, that's incredible. When you analyze all the lap times in their context, they all seem super impressive, because normally you look at it and say, oh, P5 for Thomas, not so good, but the fact that he's just arrived makes it even more special.
So problems then at Bangalore Speedsters. Neither Rishon Rajiv or Oliver Webb have set lap times. So big problems for them, and now they're not going to. We knew that Lula Lovenfoss wasn't going to, because she's unfortunately fallen ill. But Rishon Rajiv and Oliver Webb not going out in qualifying too. That's a big problem for both cars. So they are not going to set a pace. And up to fourth comes Tom Canning. Tom Canning goes, oh, up to the pole has come Fabian Wolven. Fabian Wolven's done a 1:26.5. She's found 0.3 of a second more than teammate Alistair Young. So Shah has now come up to third. And Gabriela Yilkova has displaced them all. She's gone up to second place again. So this is about to update on the graphic on your screen. Nicole Havada has outpaced Sandeep Kumar so far. And now they've got the car up to speed again. But we've got a handful of seconds left. And look, Gabriela Yilkova, second. Young, third. Shah, fourth. Canning, fifth. And Akash Gowda now eclipsing Celia Martin in sixth and seventh. With Nicole Havada and Sandeep Kumar. Now they're all similar on pace. So the 9 cars that are out there are relatively competitive. Whatever was wrong with the Chennai Turbo riders, yes, they're still the last 2 cars out there, but at least they are now closer to the pace than they were. So now we're waiting to see if the Goa Aces can snatch a pole position away from Godspeed Kochi. Here's Sohail Shah. What can he do? Across the line. And what has Sohail Shah achieved with his final lap? We'll have to double check. It's a 1:30.0. He doesn't improve. Across the line come the 2 cars from Godspeed Kochi. Young goes quickest. 1:26.0. Last lap of the session. And he bags the pole position. A 1:26.0. It's 2 ahead of 1 once again. But we're still waiting for Gabriela Yilkova. Can she cause an upset? Well, Tom Canning already has. He's gone 4th. Great run from Tom Canning. He had to deliver in qualifying, and he has absolutely done so. And Yilkova crosses the line. She does not improve. But what a run from Fabienne Volvend and Gabriela Yilkova. 2nd and 3rd from them in qualifying. But Alistair Young makes it 2 from 2 for number 2.
They've got both the cars on pole position. Nikhil Bora is going to start on pole position for Godspeed Kochi, and Alistair Young is going to start on pole position as well. At the home race of their biggest rivals, Godspeed Kochi are just setting in the laps, and they could cause the big upset. They could leave with the championship win in Hyderabad, when at the first round they were totally down and out there. So this, Jake, is amazing. And Fabienne Volvend for Godspeed Kochi 2nd. Let's not forget, she was only half a second behind. In these conditions, that's so little. But the 2 of them have pushed each other to amazing limits. We started off with 1:30s. We've ended up with a fastest lap of 1 minute 26.073. That's a 4-second improvement. That is brilliant.
Well, it's brilliant work from Godspeed Kochi. Look at that.
Well, hey.
Akshay Bora is greeting the 2 Godspeed Kochi cars into the pits. And Young does what Bora did. Nikhil Bora will start pole position for his race in just the same way that Alistair Young will for his. Excellent work for the Godspeed Kochi cars. Fabienne Volvend and Alistair Young get out of their cars. Double pole, double front row. Boom. Thank you, Hyderabad. Look at that. Young embraces Nikhil Bora. This weekend could not have started any better for the 18-year-old average pairing of Nikhil Bora and Alistair Young. How about that?
And I love that they show their emotions. They don't hide it. They don't really suppress anything and act all formal, act all PR. No. Alistair Young and Nikhil Bora always go out there and express what they're feeling. And you can see it. And you can also see the emotions on Fabienne Volvend. She's explaining how tricky the conditions are. And you've got to respect that lap, because in those conditions, 1 and 2 for Godspeed Kochi, I think the name is really coming alive, Jake. It really makes sense now.
Amazing runs from the 2 Godspeed Kochi drivers. Look at that, the teammates there, Young and Volvend. That is how good Fabienne Volvend is. She, for me, is the real star of qualifying. 2nd position for her. She had a lot to deliver in the wet conditions, as she so nearly bagged pole position. But 2nd position, it means that all 4 Godspeed Kochi drivers will start their sprint races from the front row of the grid. And on his final lap, by the way, Tom Canning managed to elevate the Hyderabad Blackbirds into 3rd position. What a standout achievement that is from Tom Canning. That is absolutely phenomenal.
P3 in itself is amazing. But when you realize that he's just come in, not got any testing laps of this car, doesn't know the circuit very well, and best of all, is replacing a racing legend in Neil Jani, and to still do that, Thomas Canning, my man, what a lap you've put in. And it's only going to get better as he does more laps, Jake.
Papa Bora embracing Alistair Young, and he's having an absolute whirlwind time. He's only just flown in from business in Dubai to watch his son, Nikhil Bora, go for victory in the Godspeed Kochi car. And boy, oh boy, is he going to have a good day at the office if things continue. There he is on the right. He's flown in to watch his son do battle out there on the course. What a decent flight that was to pick up. Look at Gabriela Yilkova. Very impressed with her. Challenged for the pole herself, as did the entire Goa Aces crew. They end up 4th and 5th. They gave it everything. And in the wet conditions, the top 5 covered by 1.5 seconds. It's not bad going, actually.
That's amazing, actually. I love that the gaps are so far very, very close. And I just also want to give a special word to the Goa Aces drivers, Sohail Shah and Gabriela Yilkova. barely any luck going their way, but at last getting a good few laps in. So that's also fantastic in their point of view when you consider their season. But here are the results at last for qualifying too. Alistair Young setting it on pole position, nailing that lap, but his teammate Fabien Wolven is very, very close by. So that for Godspeed Kochi is perfect.
Well, we are not entirely sure yet whether that's Gabriela Yilkova in third position, because according to our timing screens, it shows that Tom Canning is third in front of Sohail Shah, and then Gabriela Yilkova in fifth. I wonder if she's had her time deleted for track limits. We'll have to update you on that, but that's the provisional results at least. Akash Gowda and Celia Martin, 6th and 7th, and then the Chennai Turbo Riders pairing of Nicole Havada and Sandeep Kumar. There was no lap time for the Bangalore Speedsters crew. Rishon Rajiv and Oliver Webb sat on the sidelines. The Lovin Foss will not take the start of races today, sadly, due to falling unwell. So, qualifying 1 and 2 has given us an absolutely sensational performance, and we have confirmation on the timing screen now. Unfortunately, Gabriela Yilkova's time has indeed been deleted for a shortcut that happened at turn 15. Now, I think that's the entry to Cinema 1. So that's very unfortunate for Gabriela Yilkova, and that drops her from what was third to 5th position. But it's proof that Wolven and Yilkova are not here to make up the numbers. Those two ladies are going to be pushing for victory in their races.
Indeed, and we've seen that with Fabien Wolven. So far, she's got a couple of podiums here and there, already very impressive. And I was just wondering, when do we see that from Gabriela Yilkova? Because surely the way the season has gone, that's not her original pace. Now you're getting to see something closer to that. And the best part is, with more laps in, when that Goa Aces car properly gets itself stable and ready, that is a great pairing. Kevin Miroka also, I think he's her driver coach, isn't it? So that's an amazing pair. We've got a couple of driver coaches here and there. John Lancaster coaching Fabien Wolven. We've got Kevin Miroka coaching Fabien Wolven. It's amazing to see these pairings come up all over here.
Good performances there too from the Speed Demons Delhi crew. 6th and 7th for Gowda and Celia Martin. Chennai Turbo Riders still trying to get themselves up the order. No running at all for the Bangalore Speed.